And welcome back to Backspace Academy. In this hands-on lecture, I'm going to go through using DynamoDB with the management console first, and then I'll look at using the command line interface to automate and speed up a lot of this stuff that we do. So the first thing we want to do there is to create a table. So if we don't have any tables, we'll be presented with this welcome screen. So just click on Create Table. And we give the table a name. And we're going to give it a partition key ID. And that's capital I and lowercase d. If we don't have it like that, then we're going to have problems. This is case sensitive, so make sure that you do it right. So capital I and lowercase d. And that will be a number. So we select number. And now we're going to add a index to this, a secondary index. So we uncheck use default settings, and then we can add our index in there. So we'll use product category, and then we'll add a sort key of price. So product category will be a string, and then price will be a number. Okay, so that's created our index there. We've got product category as the partition key, our sort key of price, and our index name will be product category -price -index. So let's just add that on there. And there we can see that's done. And we'll leave our provision capacity the same as what it is. And we'll click on Create. And what will happen is our table status here will be saying created, or creating, sorry. And then it will change after a certain amount of time to active when has finished being created. Okay, so just fast forwarding, we've got our table up and running. It is now table status active. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some items to our table. So just click on the items tab now. And we can see that we've got our ID here. And what we can do here is we can create an item. So we're going to give the ID 101. And the product category will be book. And the price will be 2. And now we'll just append another field to this item. So we just click on the plus sign here after price, and we just append, which means put it at the end or put an entry after this. If we used insert, it will put it before it, or we could actually remove it if we make a mistake. So we're going to append, and it's going to be a string, and this is going to be title. So title of the book, and the book title will be Book 101 title. And so we just go through and we do the rest of those entries as are detailed in the lab notes for this, or in the hands-on notes for this. Okay, and just fast forwarding there, I've entered all the fields there for the items. We've got ID 101, a number, or down to ISBN, which is a string with that there. So now we can create that item or save that item. And there it is for us. Okay, so that's a very slow way of adding items, a very inefficient way of adding items to a table. So that would be okay if you just wanted to modify a table. You wanted to add a couple of items or delete a few items or whatever. You would go into the console and you'd do that. That's quite feasible to do that. But if you're bringing in large amounts of data, you definitely wouldn't do that. So if you've got a few hundred items or thousands of items to come in, that's not going to be practical at all. So the way you would do that is to import the data through using a batch write command, and you would import that data as a JSON file, which would contain all the details of those items. And you would use the batch write command in one of the SDKs, or else with the command line interface tools. So we're going to use the command line interface tools to import quite a number of items, and we're going to have a look at that. So first thing I'll do is just open up that actual file, the JSON file, and we can see exactly what that looks like. So quite straightforward. So we've got here the first object there is test table, and that's the name of our table, obviously. And then we go into the different items here. So we've got the one there, and then the next one here. So a put request there for an item with an ID of that, a title of that, which is going to have a string. That's a string, and then we have a authors, which is an array of strings, and then we've got all that there and a boolean there for in publication. And that goes all the way down there till we get to the end. So quite straightforward and easy to understand. One thing you might realise there just by looking at that is it's really not any easier than using the command line, using the console, and you're quite correct there. But where this is an advantage is if, for example, you're using an Excel worksheet, you can actually have a cell set up with this part of it in a cell, this text, and then the next cell would have the data, and then another cell with the text. And then at the end of the row, you would have that all concatenated together to create your JSON object there. So, and then you just go line by line, adding them all through. And you could also basically automate that straight to bring in large amounts of data and then and create a JSON file. So once you've got that in Excel, you'd cut and paste that, and you'd bring it into a JSON editor to check that it's okay. So I'm just going to grab all of this now and bring that into a JSON editor. So if you've got Chrome, there is a really good Chrome extension called JSON Editor. It's free and it installs straight into your Chrome browser. So we're just going to launch that one now. And I'll just clear the screen. So I'm just going to paste that in there now, the JSON, and just going to click here and bring it over to the other side here. So it's interpreted all that JSON and it's got it in here. We've got the object test table, and which has all these items added to it. So the first item is going to be a request there for the item there with an ID of 102, which we've got 102 there, which is a number, all the way down to product category, which is a book. We'll look at the last item in here, which has an ID of 205, and we go down here 205. So that looks pretty good. So the other advantage of doing this is that you obviously pick up errors. So just say, for example, you leave out a comma there, and then you go to bring that across, it'll come up with an error telling you that. So it's really quite handy to sort out problems before you actually get anywhere near your database and create havoc in your database. The other advantage is that when you get this sort of data out of a spreadsheet, it's normally very hard to read and very hard to find out what's going on. So what you can do is once you've got it over and interpreted it here, you can bring it back across and it'll sort that all out and format that all nicely for you. So that's quite a good tool to use. Okay, so we're just going to use the command line interface now to bring that JSON file, which is located on inside an S3 bucket, into Amazon Web Services to upload to DynamoDB. So if you're having trouble getting these command line interface tools working, there's three things you probably need to check. So you need to download the MSI file and then do the Windows installer. It's probably the easiest way to do it for Windows. There's other ways of doing it for Linux and Mac, but the process is pretty well the same. So once it's been installed, then you need to set up your path in your environment variables inside Windows to make sure that you can access that from any directory. You next need to do the AWS configure command and make sure that you have an access key and secret access key there set up to go in there. You also need to make sure that you check that the user that you're using has administrator access set up in IAM. So if that's all done, then everything should be working properly. So the first thing you would want to do would be to do that AWS configure command. I won't do that now, I've already done that. So that'll go through and ask you what your secret access key and everything is. So what we're going to do now is use a command here. It's a batch write command, and it's going to pull in from a bucket here that we've the backspace CDN, and it's going to pull that in, interpret it, and then bring it into the DynamoDB table that's referred to in that JSON file. So we just click on enter now, and that will chug away, and that's finished. So there is a command, or there is a message saying unprocessed items, which means it's processed everything that's supposed to be done there. So now if we go back into the DynamoDB console, we should be able to see all of those items brought into that table. So we just click on again Explore Table and go for Query. And there we can see everything has been brought in quite nicely. So we've got our books here, which don't have bicycle type or brand or anything, which is fine, but they have authors and dimensions and whatever. And up here we have our bike. So it's pulled in those 9 items out of that JSON file quite successfully and with no errors. So that was very quick and easy to do. Okay, so now that we've got that data in there, let's have a look at querying and get some information out of that data. So what we're going to do is maybe look at getting all of the bikes that are less than or equal to $300. So we've basically got this one, 3 out of the 5 bikes are less than $300. So that's probably a good query to start with. So what we'll do is have a look at the JSON file that I've set up for that. So here we go. So it's again very simple to understand. It's just got 2 main objects here. So product category is going to be a string bike, makes sense, and the price is going to be $300 with a comparison operator of less than or equal to. So anything that's less than or equal to 300, that is a bike that equals bike. It will pull that in. So there's our JSON file, and the command to do that is a query command. So there we can see we've got our JSON file, and with the conditions there to bring it in, and we're going to just run that command and see what happens. Okay, so it's spat out some objects for us. Let's have a look at those. So the first one is 201, and that has a price of $100. So that's correct. The next one is a bike, 202, and that is priced $200. The next one, bike 203, is priced $300, which again is less than or equal to 300, and that's it. So we've got 3, and everything worked fine. So we've covered off quite a bit there. So hopefully you get a good understanding now of how useful the command line tools are. And using the command line tools is very similar to using an SDK if you are a programmer. So you get used to using that. And if you are a coder, then you can do some great stuff with this. So now it's your turn to have a go at this. So all the files there are ready for you to go, so you can download the JSON files, have a look at them, see how they work, play around with the command line tools yourself, maybe do some queries yourself, and play around with that. So I'll see you in the next lesson.